Welcome to Explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredibly powerful story from William O. Douglas. And this isn't just fiction, it's a raw, first-hand account of a primal fear and the amazing journey he undertook to finally conquer it.
We're going to start right in the middle of the action with this line because, wow, it just perfectly captures that feeling of paralyzing terror, the kind that knows absolutely no reason or control. It really makes you wonder, how in the world did he get to this point?
Well, to understand that terror, we've got to go back. See, it wasn't just one single event. It was actually two key moments in his childhood that first planted the seed of fear and then later made it grow into something truly terrifying.
So, here's how it all began. First, when he's just a toddler, maybe 3 or 4, he gets knocked over by a wave. His father, just laughs it off. But for a little kid, that force of the water is absolutely terrifying. Fast forward a few years, and that small fear is about to get supercharged into a full-blown phobia.
Okay, so now we're at the YMCA pool. Douglas is about 10 or 11, and he's just starting to feel a little bit of confidence in the water. This is supposed to be a safe place, right? But a single, senseless act of bullying is about to turn it into the scene of a near-death experience.
Picture this. Douglas is just sitting by the side of the pool, all alone. This older kid, a big bruiser of about 18, comes up to him and says, "Hi, Skinny. How'd you like to be ducked?" And before he can even answer, the kid just picks him up and chucks him into the deep end, just like that. And a desperate fight for life begins.
As he's sinking, sheer panic just takes over, and his perception of everything gets completely twisted. That 9-foot drop to the bottom, in his mind it felt like 90. He actually has a strategy, to hit the bottom and launch himself up like a cork. But fear is already warping everything. He finally hits the bottom and pushes off with everything he's got. He's expecting to just shoot right up to the surface, but the journey up is agonizingly slow. He's barely moving, and all the while, his lungs are absolutely screaming for air. He finally breaks the surface, but only his eyes and nose make it out, not his mouth. He's flailing, trying to get air, but he just swallows more water. He feels this immense force dragging him back down. His legs feel like dead weights, totally paralyzed. The plan failed. He's going down again. After a third desperate trip down, something changes. All the effort just stops. The terror vanishes, and it's replaced by this peaceful, drowsy blackness. He says it felt like floating in space. He just gave up, crossed into oblivion, and as he puts it, the curtain of life fell.
What's so interesting is how the story uses all these things as symbols. Water isn't just water. It represents his deepest fears, these huge psychological barriers. The pool then becomes this sort of controlled arena where he can eventually face that fear. And he even gives the trauma a name, the old terror. It's his inner demon.
So Douglas survives. The bully, unbelievably, just says he was only fooling, but the psychological damage is done, and those scars cast this long, dark shadow over his life for years and years.
And this fear wasn't just, a bad memory. He calls it a handicap. It followed him everywhere. It completely ruined fishing trips, took away the simple joy of boating with his friends. Anytime he got near water, that old terror would just grab him, make his legs feel like stone, and fill him with this icy horror.
Then one October, he just decides enough is enough. He can't live like this anymore. So he makes a decision. He hires an instructor, and he begins this very methodical, step-by-step process of fighting back.
And the instructor's method is just brilliant. He doesn't just throw Douglas back in the deep end. Nope, he breaks it all down into tiny, manageable pieces. First, he gives him a sense of security with a rope and pulley. Then, they just work on breathing, over and over. Then they work on just kicking. And piece by piece, he literally builds a swimmer. And in doing that, he deconstructs the fear.
So after months of this, the instructor says, "Okay, now you can swim. The lessons are over." But the real test is still ahead. Douglas knows deep down that he's not really free until he can face that water and that terror all by himself.
And the transformation is it's incredible. I mean, look at this shift. He goes from being paralyzed by fear to being released, from being handicapped to being free. He's no longer deprived of all these simple joys in life. Now he can just brush that fear aside.
So, to really prove to himself that he's won, he starts swimming in lakes alone. And when those little flickers of the old terror try to come back, he confronts them, head on. He actually talks to his fear, taunts it. And in that moment of direct confrontation, the terror it flees, and he swims on.
And it's through this whole experience that he finally understands what his friend, President Roosevelt, meant by this famous line. See, Douglas had felt both things, the sensation of dying and the absolute terror that comes from the fear of dying. He realized the real enemy was never the water or even death. It was fear itself.
So in the end, this story is about so much more than swimming. It's really this powerful message that trauma does not have to own you. And that courage, well, it isn't about not being afraid. It's about looking that fear right in the eye, day after day, until you are the one in control. And that really leaves us with one final thought. Douglas's journey is like a blueprint for overcoming pretty much any obstacle. It's just an amazing testament to the human will. And it kind of makes you ask yourself, right? What fears, big or small, are holding you back? What's your deep water that you're ready to conquer?